Okay, so for this part, we're talking about ratios and proportions. Throughout this unit, we're going to be talking a little bit about comparison and how to find unit rate, especially for this section. So, but first we have to talk about what is a ratio. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers by division. They can be written in either of these ways: A to B, A semicolon B, A over B. So if we're talking about how to write a ratio, a fraction is a ratio in a sense. When we're talking about rates, a rate is comparing a ratio with two different units. So for example, miles per hour. So if I had 4 miles, this is not writing correctly, but if I had 4 miles, just put MI, 4 miles per 1 hour, you can write that as 4 to 1 or 4 to 1, 4 miles to 1 hour, or 4 over 1. So those are how to relate the ratios here to how we would write it. But you can see that this unit rate right here, miles per hour, miles is a unit, miles is a unit of distance, hours is a unit of time, and we're comparing those two differences. A unit rate, so building off of rate, a unit rate is with the denominator of 1. So this is an example of a unit rate. How many miles per 1 hour? What is the cost per ounce of food? If I had to find the unit rate given two different units, all you have to do is set up the ratio in the form of a fraction and divide it. So be careful on what unit rate is on the top and on the bottom. So if I'm trying to find miles per hour, I would have miles on the top and the hours on the bottom, and I would divide. Here's a couple examples. So if you have 12 dozen apples that cost $5, the unit rate. So if you're trying to find the cost per apple, you would put the money on the top and the apples on the bottom. Right? So you just set it up as 5 over 12, and you divide 5 divided by 12, and you get 42 cents per apple. If you can travel 20 miles in 3.5 hours, and you want to find miles per 1 hour, then you would set it up as 200 miles over 3.5 hours, and you would divide the two, and you would get your answer. So you just put it in your calculator. So 200 miles divided by 3.5 hours, you get 57.14 miles per hour. It can be written like this, or dollars per apple. All right, so if you flip it, you can find hours per mile. How many hours would it take you to run 1 hour? It might not make as much sense, but you would just put the 3.5 on the top and the miles on the bottom. So when you're setting it up, whatever you're trying to find per that unit, make sure that it's written from top to bottom. So here's a couple examples of how to find unit rates of something. If you can make 30 paper airplanes in 0.13 hours, how many can it take you to make in 1 hour? So we have 30 paper airplanes and 0.13 hours on the bottom, because this will be paper airplanes per hour. So once we just divide that out, we can find out how many paper airplanes, a unit rate, we can make per hour. So 30 divided by 0.13 would be 230, or approximately, if we round to the nearest airplane, 231 airplanes per hour. Okay? So pretty basic. This is great when we're comparing things to figure out, especially like if you're in the grocery store. I use this all the time. If you're buying in bulk and you have two different sizes of, say, cereal, of ounces and how much it costs. So you can figure out the price per ounce to see what you're actually getting a better deal on. Here's another example. You can run 10 miles in 1.4 hours. How many miles can you run in 1 hour? So again, we're looking per 1 hour. So we're going to put the miles on the top and the hours on the bottom. So 10 over 1.4. So then we can take 10 divided by 1.4, and that gives us 7.14 miles per hour. All right, so here's one where we're comparing two unit rates. So again, kind of going back to that cereal example that I mentioned a second ago, Main Street Florist sells 2 dozen roses for $24.60. Flowers for You Florist, so we are talking about 2 different companies, sells 6 roses for $7.50. Find the unit rate of each. Which florist has the lowest cost per rose? So let's talk about Main Street first. So Main Street sells 2 dozen for $24. So we're looking at price per rose. So price per rose. So our money is going to go on top and our amount of roses is going to go on the bottom. So for the Main Street, we have $24.60. And then they're selling 2 dozen. So 2 dozen, 1 dozen is 12. So, right? So 2 dozen would be 24. So for 24 roses, they're charging you $24.60. So to figure out our price or our unit rate, price per rose, we would divide these two. 24.60 divided by 24. It gives us $1, and it's money, so we're going to round this to a 3. So $1.03 per rose. All right, so let's look at Florist for You. And they are selling 6 roses for $7.50. And again, price per rose. So think about that as you say it. Price per rose. So that tells you what goes on the top and what goes on the bottom. So we have $7.50 and 6 roses. 7.5 divided by 6. So that is $1.25 per rose. So the cheaper cost per rose is Main Street. Now, if you don't want 2 dozen, you just want 6, then you can go here. Unless you work at a dealer and you say, hey, will you sell me the roses? Can I buy 6 roses at this rate? Which they might do, and then, hey, you got a better deal. So again, unit rate is great when you're trying to figure out comparison by buying in bulk or different sizes, and you're looking at the most bang for your buck of what you can get for a price per a unit of one other thing. I'm going to do one more example. So let's say we have cereal. Let's say we have Fruity Pebbles. All right, let's say we have a 16 ounces, and that costs you $5.99. And then there's a bigger box of Fruity Pebbles, and it's 25 ounces. Fruity Pebbles go quick in my house. They would if I buy them. I like them. And that's going to cost you, let's say, $7.25. Now I'm just making up numbers here. All right, so you might want more, but could you get, what are you paying less for per 1 ounce of that actual cereal? So we want to find out how much it costs per ounce. So price per ounce. So again, price per ounce. That's our setup. Is going to be, if I wanted to figure out how much ounces per dollar, then I would do it the other way. But I like seeing how much it costs me for that unit rate. So I have 5.99 over 16. You can do that math. 5.99 divided by 16 ounces. That gives me, and again, we're talking money, so I'm going to round to the nearest cent, which is that 100th spot. That 4 tells me to keep that the same. So this is 0.37 dollars, or so 37 cents per ounce, per 1 ounce. All right, so now we're going to set up the unit rate here. And again, dollars on the top, ounces on the bottom. So I can set up 7.25 divided by 25. That gives me 29 cents, so 0.29 per ounce. So again, what's the better deal? The better deal per ounce would be to buy more, even though it's costing you more up front. You're going to get more. You're going to save. How much are you saving? You're saving 8 cents pretty much per ounce. But you know, if you do that with a lot of different types of food or items that you might buy, in the long run, it could end you saving money. Unless you don't eat as much, then you know you might not want as much because you could be wasting, and that's a whole other conversation. So anyway, that's how you find unit rate, a very useful skill, especially when you're looking to compare prices of things.